right, we're gonna give it until 12:05 and then we're gonna begin because I want to respect your time. And I know that Ashley has a meeting, 12:30. All right, make some noise, you guys, so the camera will go over there. All right, we have Luisa joining us and Raina joining us. And let me go ahead and get so today we're going to be talking about the exciting topic of compliance. It is exciting because, there's a sense that you get when you know that things are done properly. It gives you a sense of pride and a good feeling. So I want to give you all the opportunity to have that good feeling. Sorry, I got tongue-tied. All right, speaking of tongue-tied, let me just take this opportunity to announce that we are going to have a podcast training. That's right. Yeah. Podcast training. It's a workshop. It's going to be facilitated by Lacey, and she is going to go from A to Z on how to conduct your own podcast. She's also going to be talking about, how to publish, how to gain the interest of others from a marketing sense. And it should be very, very good. Even if you are not thinking about starting your own podcast, I think it's a really good training to have. I sent myself, you know what? It's just not here. I sent myself the my presentation, and it's just not here. And I don't know why.
Under completed, maybe?
No, I just barely sent it. And today's not the 22nd.
Yeah.
So let me see. Let me just try it one more time. Oh, and it's 12:06. All right. So I'm just gonna talk my presentation. I had a PowerPoint, but you know what? It's not that important, and I can send it to you afterward so you have the notes. So I'm just gonna get started here. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you. Ashley had a good weekend. She had, I don't know, how many showings did you have, Ashley?
I think we capped out at 19. Yeah. And I have two more today. Two more so far today.
Okay. I think my estimate was right that you'll be the next one going into escrow.
Fingers crossed. I really, really hope so.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. It's great when you have a property that just dominates, All right, so we're going to be talking about compliance. And first of all, I want to talk about what is compliance and why does compliance matter? Compliance matters because it keeps us out of trouble. If you're compliant with the contract, you're going to keep your clients happy. You're going to protect your clients against any possible lawsuits. You're going to protect the other agents. You're going to protect your broker. You're going to reduce any possibility of a DRE complaint and any E&O claims or lawsuits. Not only that, it builds trust and it gives you an air of professionalism, right? And then what is compliance really? Compliance is following the real estate law. It's following all the DRE regulations and brokerage policies, and it's maintaining an ethical and organized practice. And there's no greater feeling than to know that you've done things the right way, properly. And these are tried and true methods. So when you follow the procedures that are set out for you, there's less likelihood that you're going to run into a situation where you don't have the answer and others don't have the answer for you. If you follow the procedures that others have done before you, then whatever you run into is going to be something that is, either is common and you'll have a lot of answers and tips to get you out of it, or it's something, that you're just going to avoid problems altogether. So let's start with the CDA. CDA stands for Commission Disbursement Authorization. The CDA is a way for agents to get paid quicker. That's really all it is. If you don't use a CDA, well, let me back up. To use a CDA, what you're going to do is, as you get closer to closing date on your transaction, you're going to um, fill out a form that tells escrow how I want my commission dispersed, right? I want my broker to get their share. I want myself to get my share. And maybe I want to pay my TC out of that too, so I don't have to worry about paying her. Maybe I want to pay my sign guy or my photographer. There's any number of things that you can do with the CDA. What it does, though, is a nice, clean way to keep all your expenses that you had for that particular transaction together. So you're able to see what was my net on this transaction after you remove all your expenses. It's probably not, I mean, after a while, you develop relationships with the people you work with. I have my sign guy, I have my photographer, I have my TC, and as you create and develop those relationships, you can always work with them and see if they will accept payment out of escrow. That means waiting till escrow closes. And of course, your TC will do that. I'm not sure if your sign guy or your photographer will or not. But if they will, then you can keep all your expenses together in one place, and you can use the second page of the CDA to estimate your taxes, because you're going to have your net take home on that after all your expenses, and then you can do your tax planning from there. So that's what a CDA is. It is something that you forward over to escrow right before your transaction closes to say, hey, escrow, instead of sending one check to my broker, I would like you to send me my portion, my broker their portion, and these people, what I owe them. How
Bobby,
much
I
sooner?
have I
Yeah,
have a quick question about that. With the
yes,
recent changes that they made to escrows,
yeah,
we added recently, I think it was earlier this year, we added a line for the buyers and sellers to sign on the CDA. But I
correct.
believe that is only required when there's additional expenses paid out of the compensation. Like, for example, like you mentioned, a photographer, maybe a staging company, things like that. If there's not any of that, if it's just basically your regular split, does only the broker sign?
So that's a question that I've been trying to get an answer to. So when I look at the DRE website, I'm seeing that it doesn't matter. Anytime you have additional instructions for that commission check, you have to get the buyer and seller. It doesn't matter who you're representing, buyer and seller signature. The way I want to interpret this is that unless you're paying something not even related to the transaction, your credit card bill, your car payment,
Well,
then.
that's just not allowed
Mhm.
out of the
Right,
transaction.
right.
So I think the new rule came into place because people were doing that. And so they
Mhm.
said, well, now we need to make sure that all parties see where funds go. But if there's
Mhm.
no additional funds paid out, if it's just broker and split, do we
Right.
really need to tell both the buyer and seller exactly what our split is with our broker? That seems
It
like
seems,
information they shouldn't have.
right, right. And so far, I have not seen anything to support not having to get their signature. And trust me, I've been looking.
That is correct.
So-
And unfortunately, the standard practice moving forward, and this is why the NAR settlement took place, is that they want the escrow agents to have all parties acknowledged, all principal parties, which is buyer and seller.
And
It's
they
just,
want,
it's just,
because they want to acknowledge the commissions that are being paid out, the compensation
Right.
that's being paid out. But then, once it's being paid out to the broker, and with the CDA, we're simply saying, hey, split it between broker agent in this way. Is that something they need to see?
it's all gonna depend on the escrow company, to be honest with you, and how they feel their liability. I know independent escrow companies are moving more towards getting both buyer and seller. But then you have controlled escrows, and then you have title independents when they're just okay with just the regular basic commission disbursement, so as long as it matches what's in the contract.
Right,
But again, it's all gonna become a preferential preference with the escrow officer on covering, their dotting their T's, crossing the T's, dotting their I's, making sure that all are aware based on DRE compliance, right?
Mhm.
But again, it's just gonna be, it's not a requirement right now. But if we start getting used to that habit, it's something that we can start moving forward, start implementing it now. Now, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
start implementing it now.
Well, yeah, the advisory came out last,
2 weeks ago, I think.
oh, that's right, a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking of it.
Yeah, and there's still more coming.
Yeah. So,
So June will have a new set of compliance with
Mhm.
disbursement authorization forms, so they're changing that a little bit too. So, yeah.
So heads
we
up.
have, heads up, we have a lot compliance with the new card forms coming out next month.
And so, yeah, to answer your question or to, add to that, Monica, the alternative is to wait the additional, 3 or 4 days to get a check cut from the broker. And, honestly, the CDA is a convenience. And like I said, I'm still doing my due diligence, to see exactly what we need to do to protect ourselves, but yet not to be, so, what do you call it? Yeah. So, because I agree with you. Why should the buyer and seller know how much you're making?
Right.
That seems a little invasive. That's the word I was looking for. So
I guess
still-
that was the question, because they already know what is being paid from the transaction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a little too much. I've always felt that.
Well,
Because once,
there was a lot.
oh, was he?
Yeah, he's talking.
Oh,
Philip.
I thought he was talking.
Phil,
Phil,
do you have a question? I don't think so.
Phil? I think he was just talking. Anyway, yeah, so, stay tuned on
Yeah.
that, but as of now, I've not found anything to support that we do not have to have the buyer and seller signatures. So
Agreed.
until further notice, that is what's required.
And just for the record, I have had in the past, and I'm talking about in the very, very past, where there have been a few brokers that issued two different commission disbursements, one particular for the buyer and one particular for the seller. So we have had it in the past where the buyer acknowledges just the commission only for the selling agent. And then there's a commission disbursement that's only for the listing agent, that's only acknowledged by seller and both brokers. And then there's another form. So there is a way of splitting it. and still being in compliance. So as long as
Okay.
all parties are acknowledging it and have signed it. It's no
Okay.
different than, I'll give you an example, a seller's FERPTA, right? Sellers are supposed to disclose their FERPTA to the buyer. The FERPTAs on the sellers have social securities and information that they don't want to disclose to the buyer, but they have to disclose the FERPTA. So what we do is we just confidentiality black out that portion and just disclose the FERPTA and have the buyer signing, acknowledge that the FERPTA assists, but not necessarily knowing the details. And there has been situations like that in the past with commission disbursements. I've seen it. Now, I don't know if this is going to be, again, something that's going to be talked about and how are we going to restructure this moving forward where it can all match and all parties can be happy. But that's another way that I've seen it done in the past that maybe it's going to be done in the future or recommended. We don't know yet until we get to that point. But I agree with you. I think it's a little invasive. So I think I would feel most comfortable with, if I'm not a neutral third party to a transaction, I will feel most comfortable, just having my buyer sign just what they know what's going to their agent only. But that's just if I were a broker. But again, we'll see how that's going to play out in a few months.
Then maybe you and I can talk about our own policies within this escrow company. So I will assure you that whatever we can do to keep it less invasive, then that's what we're gonna do. But we do have to remain compliant.
Absolutely.
So just
Yeah.
stay
I
tuned on
honestly, I
that.
only brought it up because I know it's one of those forms that gets done right at the end. And if we need to get multiple signatures from it, we probably need to do it a little sooner so that we have time to gather those. Otherwise, there's this big scrambling, moment
Right.
at the end to get signatures from everybody, which when they think that's done, it can be very like, oh God, what, another signature? What now? And you certainly don't want somebody in an irritable mood when they're looking at money.
No,
Absolutely.
no, you
You're
do
right.
not.
Yeah.
All right. So stay
So-
tuned is the message there, but until we have a better answer, all parties to the transaction are required on that form.
Yes.
Okay, moving along. Okay. So, the CDA is a great tool. We will be talking more about that. All right, so on your closing transaction file, Monica has done a fabulous job at creating some checklists of all the documents that you would need to constitute a complete file. Now, this is something that you definitely want to give to your TC when you hire that person. We do need you to use an approved TC. Right now, our approved TCs would be Jan and Monica. And also Carla's in the process of becoming approved. So as long as you use any one of those three individuals, you are fine. Now, let's say you met somebody that you connect with, you work well together, and you want them to be an approved TC. It's totally easy. You just give me their name and we will go through the process of getting them approved. So I don't want there to be any problems with you using whoever you want to use. We just have to make sure that they are aware of how we require our files and that they'll be submitting that compliant, in compliance. I do want you all to know where these checklists live. So I'll send everybody a link to all the agent resources. They're in there with the resources. Okay. Disclosure compliance. So when we are in a transaction, a lot of times agents aren't sure what to disclose and what not to disclose. whenever in doubt, you want to err on the side of disclosure. If you're not sure, just disclose. The requirement is to disclose all material facts. So what is material? So I always say a material fact is any fact that would change the opinion of value from for any party to the transaction. For example, if knowing a certain fact would make a buyer think the home is worth less, then that's a material fact. If a fact is something that if it's known by a buyer that their opinion of value would increase, that's also a material fact. So if you use that rule of thumb, you will probably be just fine. So just remember, all material facts must be disclosed. Use your required disclosures consistently. In most transactions, your disclosure list is going to be exactly the same as every other property. When you change property types from single family to maybe a mobile home or to commercial or to condominium, that's when your disclosures may change. You will have different ones for different types of properties. So as long as you use the proper forms, in the forms themselves, if you look in your purchase agreement, your RPA, it will actually list all the disclosures that you need. It's not obvious. You have to kind of read through there, but that's where these checklists come in handy because all that work has been done for you. You check your checklist and it'll tell you which disclosures are needed.
And when in doubt, like check against somebody else, like your TC, your team lead, whoever's reviewing. Always make sure you double check that before you send out the big batch of disclosures. Like if you're on the selling side, you're sending out a big batch, or you receive them and now you got to send them back, but you want to know you have everything from the buyer end. Because it might be different, for example, if it's a probate property, or if it's a foreclosed property, or if it's an older home, there might be more disclosures. Certain cities are going to require extra disclosures for the locale. Like, for example, up in the mountains, we have a special disclosure for that. Over here in Orange County, we have a special disclosure for that. And people don't always think to include those. So you have to kind of double check through everything, that list, not at the end, but at that point. And then probably at the end again to make sure you got them all.
So let me ask you, Monica, do you have a disclosure for like, by the ocean? Are there like?
No, there's an Orange County local area disclosure form that comes from the OC Realtor Association. Wow. That if it's a property within Orange County, it's a big long disclosure. It's similar to the one you have for Mountain that covers a lot of different things regarding living by the ocean, regarding living by airports, regarding the freeways, regarding HOAs, regarding everything that's happening in Orange County. And it kind of updates every once in a while, not often, but it is just a disclosure like report that kind of everybody just acknowledges we got a copy of this and we understand all this.
Yeah. Okay, good to know. Good to know. And if you ever do a transaction in an area that you're not familiar with, you can always call the local association there and ask that association, are there any local disclosures that I need to be aware of? I did a transaction in Fresno one time. I didn't think to do that, but if I were to do one again, I would definitely do that to make sure that I didn't miss any disclosures that are regional like that. So thank you for bringing that up, Monica.
Can I ask one other question? Because me and Ashley kind of went through this with her last, with the listing she has now, right? The one that has all the updates. Because she has this huge list of all these things that they did to the property. But then when you see it, it looks a little outdated. And so She was wondering if she should put disclosures as a supplement on the MLS regarding, like the standard seller disclosures there. And I've seen other agents do that for some properties,
Mhm.
especially ones that were maybe flipped or something like that, or, that kind of investor property.
Yeah,
In my opinion, I don't like the idea of disclosing information to everyone before they've made an offer.
yeah.
So for me, I would typically leave it for after, but are we required to if we already have that information?
You're not required to, but the value in using a supplement to put your TDS or your SPQ, one of those, or any other disclosure, particularly your TDS, is that, if as the selling agent, if you get the TDS to your buyer late, let's say, they get an additional 5 days to review, even if your disclosure period has ended. So in order to maintain your timelines, you want to get that TDS to them as quickly as possible. So having it as a supplement on the listing, that would be the value in having it there. I
Okay.
wouldn't see any other value. Are you talking about like the plumbing was redone recently and the electrical? Was she talking about those types of things, having that as a supplement?
Well, there's that information, sure. I mean, really, we were talking like SPQ and TDS, you know what I mean? And at first I'm like, well, maybe, but then I kind of feel like maybe you don't want to give so much information to everyone that has access to the MLS, all the agents,
Mhm.
um, before you're even in communications or contract with them,
Yeah,
rather than I don't know. I just find that it opens up a door that maybe you don't want to open with everyone.
right, right.
Um,
So you have a point there. That's a good point. So I think in that you
What
would
I
have
think what
to.
she decided she wanted to do instead was just have a list of like improvements and put that
Mhm.
as a supplement, or send that again to anyone interested, just to show
Yeah.
like improvements and upgraded value, which that makes
Mhm.
sense, fine, I just didn't know if we were required to put it there if we already had it. Because I
Yeah.
typically tend to get those when I get the listing.
That's right. Yeah. And that's smart. You want to take advantage of all the time that you have with your client, get as much paperwork done as possible at one sitting while it's fresh, while they're thinking about it. That is really a smart thing to do. But yeah, I think you would do it on a case by case basis. And then have a reason for why you're doing it. If you're concerned about timelines and you want to make sure that there's no delays, then maybe you want to put it up there. But in Ashley's case, I think it was a good decision to just make a list because all of her upgrades, none of it is obvious. None of
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
But they're very valuable.
Yeah,
When you're talking about replumbing a whole house and redoing all the electrical, these are expensive upgrades, but nobody's gonna see it, you
yeah.
know? So yeah, no, I think that was a wise choice
Okay,
on
so we're
her
not
part.
required to put them up there just for compliance. Okay, okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, okay. Yeah, so just to end that disclosure compliance, when you have late disclosures, it does create a liability. So you want to keep all of your risk and liability as low as possible. So staying on your timelines is one of the smartest things that you can do when you're in a transaction. And like I was saying about the TDS, in your purchase agreement, it outlines all the timelines for both buyer and seller. So as the selling agent, if you, in the contract, if it gives your seller 7 days to produce, the disclosures, then by God, keep to that timeline. Because when you delay, that gives the buyer side additional benefits that maybe they wouldn't have had you stuck to your timeline. For example, if you get the TDS to them late, they have 5 days from the time they received it. That could push your contingency removal timeline out. And every time you push a timeline out, you're giving the opportunity for this escrow to close late. So we just don't want to do that. And the next topic was timeline compliance. You want to be sure and track the contingency deadlines very carefully. I like to use a calendar or something where I can see visually when the different timelines end. Your contingency timelines are the most important, because if your seller, or if your buyer, if you're working with a buyer and your buyer removes the contingencies and something happens at the end where, they have to back out, and believe me, this has happened. I've had to tell a buyer that they lost their deposit, and that's the worst thing to have to do. There's just nothing, even if you were very clear with them, it's still hard to tell someone that they just gave away $2,000, $2,500. And there are some less scrupulous agents out there who will take every opportunity to keep that deposit, especially when you have a large deposit. I always recommend, even if my seller has the money, or I'm sorry, the buyer has the money, keep the deposit, the EMD, earnest money deposit, to 1 or 2%. Don't go over that, even if they have it. It just keeps, or it creates an opportunity for the seller side to get greedy, and there's just nothing good can come out of that. So track your contingency deadlines very carefully, and then be very, very clear about what this contingency removal means. Oh, there she is. I keep seeing Carla bounce in and out, and now she's here. So good. Hi, Carla. I'm glad you're here. Monitor deposits and notice periods very carefully. If you're going to send over a notice to perform, that has very specific timelines within it. So you want to make sure that when your 2 days or however long your notice to perform expires, that you do the next step within the timeline that is been created within that action. That gives you the strongest possible position in the transaction. We always want to make sure that we keep a good, strong position when we're negotiating. I think we oftentimes forget that we lose power in the transaction when we're not paying attention to those timelines. So just remember those timelines, if you stay within those, you're going to have your most powerful position within the transaction. You always want to stay the most powerful side in any transaction. And this is an easy way to do it. Okay.
And for the newbies, when it says the deadline is tomorrow, like the 27th of something, you know what I mean? That means by the end of the day tomorrow.
Correct.
It doesn't mean at the start of the day tomorrow. So you do have that day to get some things done, but ideally you want to start getting what you need to complete that at least 24 hours before, so that you can send it to them on the day that it's due at the very latest. Because we always think we can get an extension on stuff, like really easy. Oh, we'll just get an extension on that. We'll ask for an extension. But you have to put the paper together, get it signed on your end, send it to them. They have to sign it. And then it has to come back. And then everybody has to agree that this was completed or extended. And that sometimes can take more than a day because not all parties are available all the time.
Or they can say no.
Or
I've
they
had
can
them
say no, which is
no.
even worse because now you're screwed and you really do have to get the thing done. So yeah,
Right.
like extension on any timeline requirements for the transaction, but also extension on your own contracts, your contract with your client, their contract with the lender, timeline for, sometimes you need to get an extension on a rate lock,
Yeah.
all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it has to kind of, you have to look at the whole big picture on that.
Mhm.
And then if you need to push somebody, do it early so you have time in case they say no, like you say. Oh, and Bobby, please don't forget to mention whatever requirements you have for when things need to come to the office.
Yes, yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap up with that.
Yeah, speaking of, I just want to add to the timelines and disclosure. One thing that Ray Ortega mentioned today on his visit, which I thought was, oh yeah, is ordering listing prelims.
Oh.
So he mentioned that ordering a listing prelim at the very start of the transaction is another form of disclosing to the buyers.
Correct.
As well with regard to solar panels, whether they're transferable or not. And I thought that was very important because I am seeing a lot of contingencies being held on prelim solars right now. So that when you mention timeline and contingency removals, prelim approval contingency are taking a lot longer now to be removed because of solar panels. So obtaining a listing prelim, I think is very, very resourceful. And Ray mentioned it today, and I thought to myself, you know what? I haven't been seeing the prelims come with my contract when opening escrow. I see them per usual. We order it, and it takes an additional 7 days to get it. But I thought that was a very good tip. For the newer agents out there, order a listing prelim. It'll give you so much information that you can also disclose to the buyers that will avoid those hiccups down, down the road. Yeah.
And the moment escrow is opened, or order the HOA docs.
Absolutely.
And your
Because those
solar.
take forever too, unless they're coming from CalCurbs, apparently. I know we're fast.
Right,
But for
Yeah.
some reason, digital documents take 10 days. I don't know why.
right.
Everywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. So Luisa, back to the prelim. If, let's say, someone has a listing right now, for example, Ashley, if she wanted to get a jump start because it looks like she's going to go into escrow pretty quick, would she just reach out to you?
Absolutely. You can just reach out to
Well,
me
there
and let
you
me know that you have a listing coming on and give me the property address, and I'll prepare a pre-listing package for you. So
Yes.
yeah,
Good.
one of the many services we offer here.
Yes. All right, and I'll hurry up so that you have a few minutes to go over your stuff too. All right, fair housing compliance. This is very important. Avoid any kind of discriminatory practices, and I know we all do. Sometimes we can do it without even thinking. So just be very careful. Be very present in everything that you discuss. And if you have any question about anything, just run it past somebody before you talk to your client. Make sure that everything that you say to your client is 100% you're completely comfortable with saying. Your social media also must comply with fair housing. I think that's a discussion for another day. But just be very careful with social media posts and whatnot. There's a specific set of rules that accompany that. I'll go ahead and send that out to everybody so that you have it. Let's see, advertising compliance, I'll send that out too. On everything that you send out for the first time, make sure to use proper brokerage identification, avoid misleading claims, avoid puffing. This is the best house on the block. And then make sure to comply with all DRE advertising regulations, and we have a handout for that. I'm gonna skip trust fund compliance. All I want to say about that is just don't accept money from your client for anything, and don't ask for money upfront for anything. There's very specific rules that go along with that, and it's best to avoid that practice altogether. I don't think anyone has ever done that, but just, you know. Now, this is what I do want to mention, and there is a responsibility that the broker has, and we must actively supervise our agents. We need to conduct file audits and reviews, and we need to provide ongoing training. When you send your file over, we do review it. And through these meetings and other trainings, I am providing the ongoing training and updates with the DRE. But there's also a responsibility for the agent to attend these meetings. Because let's say, for example, we get audited by the DRE. They say, I want to see this file, and it just happens to be, I don't know, Ashley's file. She's not here. Just use her as an example. And let's say she made a terrible violation mistake, and it looks like there's going to be some consequence to that. If I show that I've had trainings weekly and that this particular instance was discussed at length at one of these trainings, and I've sent out multiple invitations for Ashley to attend, and Ashley did not attend those, we've just made sure that the DRE goes after Ashley and not the brokerage. So this is a two-way street. And this isn't for necessarily the people who are here, but it's for everyone who's actually not attending. So I'm hoping that everyone listens to this recording. It really is a two-way street, and I really need everyone to attend these trainings. It's 1 hour a week. So, just make sure it's in your calendar and you make time for it. Looks like Scott just stepped in.
Hi, Scott.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end there. I'll go ahead and send my notes out so that you have all the information. But let's go ahead and transition over to Luisa, and she will go over some escrow stuff for you. All right? Go ahead, Luisa.
And I sent you a document on info just so that you can pop it up if you
Oh,
want to
okay.
see it, so that
Sure.
we can go over the 3 basic escrow compliance. I don't know if you received it. Sent it this morning, or maybe Raina.
Was it earlier
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, it was this morning. Did you get it, Raina? Can you forward it to her? I forgot my.
Yes. I don't see, oh, these are pinned, okay.
Oh,
Why isn't there any email from like no later
yeah,
than
you don't have
Friday?
anything from today.
That's very strange. I don't know.
I wonder if it's just locating the pin ones. Okay, let me forward it. You found it.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, just go
Well,
ahead.
Bear with us.
Yeah, I'll go try and find it, but
I just forwarded it.
Well,
Perfect.
the email isn't getting anything past Friday.
Oh, that makes sense.
So please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so back to where we were. So we're gonna go over the new escrows. It's back to basics, you guys. Back to basic escrow compliance 101. So Bobby wanted me to touch 3 points on 3 compliances with escrow. So I'll take it to number 1, obviously open escrow. So what it requires to open an escrow: For us, the escrow company, we need the buyer and seller fully signed and dated RPA. Now, I cannot type escrow instructions without a fully signed RPA. I know there's been contradictions with other escrow officers in the past where they feel they want to cater to getting the escrow instructions just out as a draft for review. Unfortunately for me personally, I've had issues in the past where just one missing initial can cause a big ordeal down the line. So because of that, I fully require for when opening an escrow for the fully executed purchase contract along with the addendums and disclosures, that in order for me to be in compliance. Now, once I receive that, my compliance is I need to acknowledge and sign page 17 of the RPA. When I do that, at the time I'm acknowledging page 17, I prepare the wire instructions for the buyer because per the contract, down to compliance number 2, the buyer has 3 days to deposit the EMD into escrow. And if you read the contract, now it states by wire transfer. And the reason being is because we have the good funds law. So we need to make sure that all funds in escrow that come from the buyer are good funds, not available funds, good funds, meaning cleared funds. That's compliance number 2 with the EMD. So when the purchase contract comes in, fully executed, I acknowledge page 17 and send out wire instructions with the fully executed contract, including page 17 to all parties, the buyers, so that they can send in the wire to escrow within that 3-day period. So that's compliance number 2. Now, with regard to compliance number 3 is very crucial. We must have the signed escrow instructions and provisions delivered to escrow within 5 business days. So all parties have 5 days to sign the escrow instructions and provisions in order for full escrow to take effect. So those are the 3 major compliances of basic escrow 101, open escrow, 2, the EMD, and 3, having the signed escrow instructions, fully signed escrow instructions in escrow. So that's what Bobby wanted me to discuss today, the basic escrow compliance 101, the 3 very basic compliance. Without that, we cannot commence escrow and move on to the first week contingency periods of escrow. Any questions with regard to the 3 basic compliance contingencies to be met? No questions? Okay, great.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Scott. Yay.
I was going to ask anyways. So if I understood you correctly, those three pieces, once you have those, that's your escrow starting period, right?
That is correct. Yeah. That is the escrow, the starting period of opening an escrow. And in order to be in compliance, escrow needs to make sure to have those 3 crucial items at the very beginning of escrow to have a full escrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I asked that only because as soon as an offer is accepted, is the appraisal ordered? Why hasn't the appraisal, been done yet? I'm like, well, we have to get disclosures first, but we ask for the fee sheet from the escrow in the beginning. And most of the time we get told the borrower hasn't submitted their earnest money deposit, so we're not doing anything yet. And then we're waiting, and then the fingers pointed like, oh, you guys are moving slow, you're doing this. Well, it's like, no, the escrow hasn't opened yet because buyer hasn't done this, which escrow needs this to be done to move forward. So
yeah, and unfortunately, without money, I can't work. So I need the EMD in our escrow account to officially start working and drafting documentation. Even though we have joint escrow instructions within the contract, right? I mean, it still pertains to escrow related, but unless I acknowledge page 17, I'm not binded to that contract yet.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's very crucial for step 1 to get the fully purchased contract over to your escrow officer and say, hey, escrow officer, can you sign page 17? Because once they sign page 17, the ball is on their court. The clock starts ticking on my court. So now it's all on me. So I have to, pressure's on. I have to submit escrow instructions to all parties within that time frame, the contingency time frame, which is 5 days per the contract. It's enough time to get it done. 3 days to receive the EMD and an additional 2 days within that 5-day period to get it done. So those are the 3 basic escrow compliance and within that 1 week time frame. As soon as you open escrow, that 1 week period, those 3 items are very crucial.
Yeah.
Very crucial.
But
Thank you for clarifying.
so there's going to be maybe a day or two to get the deposit, right? Typically,
Yes.
it comes within a day or two. I know they have a max of 3. And then obviously there's going to be a minute to sometimes get the signatures back from escrow on page 17 and all of that and anything else that they require. But if for us as agents, when we look at our timeline and we make our calendar, right? The moment we send a message to escrow and say, hey, escrow, we want to open up a new escrow. Here's the contract. Here's the fully executed contract. Here's all the parties' information. That is the day we're opening escrow, correct?
According to you, yes.
That's what I'm asking, because I understand for
Correct.
your timeline what you need to keep in mind, but we need to know what we need to keep in mind for our timeline so
Correct.
that we can advise everybody else on our end.
Right. So on your end, you're doing your due diligence by sending a request to escrow to open. And then on my end, I have to do my due diligence in collecting the EMD as soon as possible. So
Right,
in order
of course.
for me to open escrow. Because as soon as I have an EMD, per compliance, I cannot pull an escrow number unless I have money deposited. So, and
Okay.
if I don't have money deposited, I cannot pull an escrow number. I have to pull an escrow number with a check or a deposit. So I can tell you, I can work with you and say I can give you estimates and pre-escrow opening, but not, I can give you drafts, but not an official set permanent copy until I receive the escrow deposit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why if you notice, sometimes escrow officers, when you ask them for like how Scotty was mentioned, an estimated closing statement, they'll give you an estimated closing statement, but it won't have an escrow number on it. It'll say just buyer and seller. It's just an accommodation, just to kind of give you like a check sheet. But we cannot officially pull an actual escrow number unless we have a deposit from the buyer. So in escrow's part, we don't officially open an escrow until an escrow number is pulled and we have a deposit from the buyer, even though we have a signed contract. That's why the 3-day period is very crucial. So it's 3 business days. So it gives us escrow to try to rush and make sure that the buyer sends that wire within that 3-day time frame.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and wires are not demanded because they're instant, they're good funds. We don't have to wait for them to clear. Back in the days when people wrote personal checks, I can see why we were going past the 3 days, even 5 days into 1 week. But now with the technology and having instant funds, there's no reason why we should not be getting the EMD unless they're still wrapping up the money, but we should have the EMD in the 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, generally speaking, it's because we get instructions from escrow late.
Too late, I know. That, and you
You
see,
know.
and that's why we want to make it the standard practice that as soon as you send me the contract, that day I acknowledge page 17. Because then my escrow's open on my end, right? Like I have it, okay, it's here. I got to call the buyer, get a deposit, pull an escrow, and it's official.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the idea. Yeah, you're welcome. Of course. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome. And then the very last, I just wanted to take a quick quiz for everyone and see what you guys got through this. I prepared 3 questions. And Bobby, if you go to the second page, I just want to see if everyone got a little bit of what I was going through today. So the 3 questions with compliance would be, so escrow instructions should be A, signed, B, delivered, C, notarized, or D, acknowledged. I'll give you guys a couple of seconds. You can Oh,
You want me to
you can
start?
circle your answer if you want. Bobby, you can circle your answer too. Okay, so escrow instructions should be A, signed.
Right.
So these are questions, just so everyone knows, these are questions that are asked when you take your California real estate exam.
Oh,
So,
okay.
okay. Altering escrow instructions once they are signed are or is A, legal if only minor changes are made. B, legal only if the change is less than $200. C, illegal, or D, none of the above. Okay, and the answer for number 2 is C, illegal.
Once again.
So altering escrow instructions once they are signed is illegal. We must require for escrow instructions amendments to be signed by all parties if we require changes to the escrow instructions. So we cannot alter escrow instructions. You cannot just cross a paragraph, an initial. You have to call the escrow officer and let them know that you have a conflict of interest or you have a problem with the escrow instructions and ask them to draft an amendment for you and present it to the other party to agree. But you cannot alter the escrow instructions. And then question number 3 is, if a problem arose during escrow, a broker will file A, an interpleader action, B, a formal written protest to the seller, C, a formal written apology to the buyer, or D, none of the above.
I think I knew this one.
Okay, and the answer to question number 3 is A, an interpleader action. Right. So if a problem arises during escrow, a broker may file an interpleader action with the courts. So let's say, for example, in earnest money deposit, there's a dispute with the EMD, and the buyer wants their earnest money deposit, the seller doesn't want to return it, and none of us can get either party to agree. As the broker or controlled escrow, we're to file an interpleader action with the courts and have the court and a judge decide who the EMD goes to. And this applies not just to EMD, it can apply to any other situation in escrow. So these 3 question compliances are part of Basic Escrow 101, and they are some of the escrow questions that are asked in the real estate escrow exam. I hope that I've been of some help and informational purposes for you guys today. And as always, my door is always open and free. I'm a phone call away. Feel free to call me with any questions with regard to compliance and escrow. I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Luisa.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, Scott, I am so sorry, but go ahead with your update.
Oh, I know, right at the end, short and sweet.
Right.
Because I was late at the dealership. Anyways, in short, still conflict with Iran is causing extreme volatility in the market with mortgage rates. Last week was just wild. But I think I'd mentioned last time, rates are similar to where we were May of 2023. We're at 9-month high right now. We are seeing some rebound in the bond market today based on these settling talks with Iran and opening the strait. But again, we've heard that before, seen it before, so no one really knows what's going on. We just have to follow what's going on with the market. So average market rate right now is like on a conventional loan is like 6.625, 6.75%, depending on credit. Your FHA Govy stuff is going to be in the low 6s. So hopefully things settle when we trend in the direction we were back in February and get these rates back down into the 5s. And then just remember, we are offering the temporary rate buy down, the 1.0 buy down, no cost to the consumer. We are covering that cost. And if I can help you with anything this week, please let me know. And if I can help, open house, flyers, anything you need, just let me know. But thank you for my time. And sorry I was
Thank you,
late.
Scott.
Thank you.
No problem, no
Scott, do we
problem.
have
Life
any
happens.
marketing materials on the rate buy down thing?
So we had something last week. I know Ashley had reached out. It had to go through compliance, and there was a
Okay.
couple things that got kicked back on it. So I should have it anytime now.
Sweet. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And we will see you next week. Have a wonderful week.
See you later.
Bye.